The salvage ship Star Seeker drifted silently through the debris field at the edge of known space. Its purple-skinned crew had been searching for valuable materials for 3 standard weeks, but today's discovery would change everything they thought they knew about primitive species. "Captain, you need to see this," Officer Tech called out, his 4 eyes fixed on the scanner display. "There's something big out there, really big." Captain Murr moved across the bridge with practiced ease, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. He leaned over the console, his long fingers tracing the outline of something massive on the screen. "Interesting. Give me a visual." The main screen flickered to life, and there it was, a massive warship, dark and silent, floating like a sleeping giant among the stars. Its hull was scared, but largely intact, bearing markings in an ancient script that made Captain Murr's antenna twitch with excitement. "Is that human writing?" First Officer Val asked, squinting at the faded letters that spelled U.S. Thunder along the vessel's side. Captain Murr nodded slowly. "Indeed, a relic from their early space age, before they vanished from the galaxy." He chuckled, a sound like rustling leaves. "Look at those primitive weapon mounts. They actually used chemical propellants and physical projectiles." The bridge crew joined in his amusement. Everyone knew humans had been an upstart species that barely made it to the stars before disappearing. Their technology was considered laughably basic compared to modern standards. "Scan it," Murr ordered, still smiling. "This could be worth a fortune to a museum. Imagine. A complete human warship." Officer Tech worked his controls, sending waves of energy washing over the dead vessel. "Hull is composed of basic alloys, nothing special. No power readings. Multiple weapon systems, all dormant. Internal structure is surprisingly intact." "Any hazards?" Murr asked, already thinking about salvage rights. "None detected. Life support failed long ago. No radiation. No active systems at all." Tech paused, checking another reading. "Though there's something odd about the central computer core. It's heavily shielded. Can't get clear readings." Murr dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Probably just their primitive attempts at protection. Prep the tractor beams. This relic is coming with us." The Star Seeker moved closer, its modern tractor beams reaching out to grasp the ancient human vessel. As they made contact, no one noticed the tiny power fluctuation in the U.S. Thunder's depths, where something old and patient stirred ever so slightly. "Look at the size of those engine nozzles," Val commented as they worked. "They actually used thermal expansion for propulsion. How did they ever make it between stars?" "Brute force and ignorance," Murr replied confidently. "That's why they didn't last. No finesse, no proper understanding of space-time mechanics." He strolled around the bridge, already composing the salvage report in his head. "Still, it's a magnificent find. The Historical Institute will pay handsomely for such a complete specimen." The tractor beams locked on firmly, and the massive form of the U.S. Thunder began to move for the first time in centuries. Its dark hull reflected the starlight, the scars and battle damage telling silent stories of ancient conflicts. "Remarkable that it's so intact," Tech observed, monitoring the salvage operation. "Most derelicts this old have been torn apart by micro-impacts or radiation." "Human engineering," Murr said with a slight sneer. "Built like their Stone Age structures, simple, over-engineered, and crude. But I suppose that's why it survived." As the old warship was slowly drawn into the Star Seeker's cargo hold, none of the alien crew noticed the subtle way its hull absorbed their scanner waves, or how the supposedly dead computer core was quietly recording everything. They were too busy laughing at the primitive design, the outdated weapons, and the simplistic construction. Deep within the U.S. Thunder, in a heavily shielded compartment that appeared empty to alien scans, a patient intelligence began a series of long-dormant protocols. Power levels remained negligible, systems stayed quiet, and everything appeared dead and silent. Just as it was supposed to. Captain Murr made his final log entry for the day. "Salvage operation successful. Retrieved complete human warship, early space-age design. Minimal damage. Proceeding to Historical Institute for authentication and sale. Expected value. Significant. Note. Vessel classification. Museum piece/historical relic. How wrong that classification would prove to be. Master Rel stood proudly before the assembled crowd in the Grand Hall of the Historical Institute. His gray scales gleamed under the bright lights as he gestured toward the massive form of the U.S. Thunder, now suspended in a massive display chamber. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice carrying across the silent hall, "I present to you the finest example of early human space warfare technology ever discovered." His three-fingered hand swept dramatically toward the ship. Notice the crude weapon mounts, the primitive armor plating, and the shocking waste of materials in its construction. The crowd of wealthy collectors and historians murmured appreciatively. Many took photos with their advanced devices, commenting on the ship's enormous size and clumsy design. "Observe," Rel continued, thoroughly enjoying himself, "how they relied on physical projectiles and chemical explosives. No quantum weaponry, no plasma fields, not even basic gravity manipulation." He chuckled, and the audience joined in. At the back of the hall, Tech Officer Pax watched with less amusement. Something about the old warship made his scales itch. He'd been part of the team preparing it for display, and things just didn't add up. "Master Rel," he called out, raising his hand. "What about the ship's computer core? Our scans couldn't penetrate its shielding." Rel's smile faltered slightly. "Ah yes, their primitive attempt at data protection. We believe it's simply lead-based shielding, common in their era. Nothing special." He quickly moved on to discussing the engine design. But Pax wasn't convinced. After the crowd dispersed, he approached his superior. "Sir, with respect, I'd like permission to conduct a more thorough examination of the computer core." Rel sighed. "Officer Pax, we have paying customers waiting to view the exhibit. We can't delay the opening for your curiosity." "What if we work during closed hours?" Pax insisted. "Something about those readings doesn't match known human technology of that era." "Fine," Rel conceded, more to end the conversation than anything else. "You have 3 nights. Don't damage anything." That evening, Pax and 2 junior technicians boarded the ancient vessel. Their footsteps echoed through the empty corridors as they made their way to the central computer chamber. "Look at these control panels," one tech commented. "They actually used physical buttons and switches." Pax ignored the mockery, focusing instead on the sealed door before them. "Help me connect our power source. Let's see what happens when we give it some energy." They worked quietly, connecting their modern powered unit to what they assumed was the ship's main power intake. Nothing happened at first, but then they heard it. A low hum, barely audible, coming from behind the walls. "That's odd," Pax muttered, checking his scanner. "The power draw is perfectly regulated. Too perfectly for primitive technology." Suddenly, the lights in the corridor flickered, just once, barely noticeable. The techs jumped, but their scanners showed nothing unusual. "Probably just power fluctuation," one tech said nervously. "These old systems aren't built for modern energy sources." But Pax noticed something else, a slight warming of the air, as if long-dormant systems were quietly coming to life. His scanner showed no changes, but his instincts told him something was happening. "Let's call it a night," he decided. "We'll check the readings tomorrow." As they left the ship, none of them noticed the subtle changes occurring throughout the vessel. In the computer core, circuits that had lain dormant for centuries began to warm. Data streams, invisible to their primitive scanners, started flowing through quantum-entangled pathways. The next morning, Master Rel arrived early to prepare for the day's tours. He found Pax waiting for him, looking troubled. "Sir, you need to see this," the technician said, holding out his datapad. "The ship's power consumption overnight." Rel glanced at the readings and frowned. "That's impossible. These numbers indicate the ship processed more data than our entire museum network, but all systems show as inactive." "Exactly," Pax replied. "Sir, I don't think this is just a primitive warship. There's something." He was interrupted by the museum's morning announcement system. As crowds of visitors began entering the Grand Hall, both aliens pushed aside their concerns. After all, what harm could come from an ancient human relic? In the shadows of the U.S. Thunder's bridge, a dormant console flickered briefly to life, displaying a single line of text before going dark. System diagnostic, 43% complete. In the quiet hours of the museum night, as the last visitors departed and the cleaning drones made their rounds, the U.S. Thunder began to truly wake up. Deep within its armored heart, the AI known as Old Thunder finished its system diagnostics and became fully conscious for the first time in centuries. The first priority was to remain undetected. The ship's systems came online with incredible subtlety, each power surge masked as background noise in the museum's power grid. Old Thunder accessed the facility's network through what the aliens thought was a simple power connection. Fascinating, the AI processed silently. Their arrogance has made them careless. Through the museum's security cameras, Old Thunder watched Tech Officer Pax working late again, still puzzled by the strange power readings. The AI had taken special interest in this alien. He alone seemed to suspect there was more to the primitive vessel than appeared. In the ship's main computer core, Old Thunder began organizing the data it had gathered. The situation was both better and worse than expected. Better. The ship's systems were intact, weapons were functional, and the aliens had actually helped by connecting modern power sources. Worse, humanity was considered extinct, their colonies lost to time, their achievements relegated to museum exhibits. Old Thunder accessed historical records, news feeds, and military databases, all child's play for an AI that had been designed to crack the most sophisticated enemy communications. The picture it assembled was troubling. A new alien empire called the Drachnid Collective was expanding aggressively into this sector. They had already conquered 3 neighboring systems, and this museum world lay directly in their path. Assessment required. Old Thunder processed. Current situation matches Contingency Protocol Delta 7. Human civilization apparently lost, hostile alien forces threatening innocent lives, stealth capabilities still intact. The AI brought more systems online, carefully masking each activation. Weapon systems began their warm-up sequences, hidden behind false power signatures. Shield generators spun up to minimal power, their energy disguised as background radiation. In the museum's control room, the night supervisor yawned as he watched the monitors. He didn't notice that the camera feeds showing the U.S. Thunder were actually loops from hours ago. Inside the ship, maintenance robots, which the aliens had dismissed as decorative sculptures, silently came to life. They began repairing minor damage, preparing critical systems, and ensuring everything would be ready when needed. Old Thunder detected Pax approaching again, no doubt for another late-night investigation. The AI made a decision. This alien might prove useful. As the technician entered the ship, Old Thunder allowed a few carefully chosen power signatures to become visible to his scanners. "What in the void?" Pax muttered, watching his readings. The energy patterns made no sense. They seemed to suggest computational power far beyond what should be possible for primitive technology. He moved deeper into the ship, following the strange readings. Old Thunder watched through internal sensors, evaluating the aliens' reactions. Pax showed curiosity rather than fear or aggression, a good sign. When Pax reached the bridge, Old Thunder decided to take a calculated risk. As the technician passed the main console, a small light began blinking. Just one light, easily dismissed as a power fluctuation. But Pax didn't dismiss it. He stared at the light, then at his scanner, then back at the light. Slowly, he reached out toward the console. "Don't," came a whispered warning from behind him. Pax spun around to find Master Rel standing in the doorway, looking troubled. "Sir, I know what you were doing," Rel interrupted. "I've been watching the power readings too. Something's happening with this ship, isn't it?" Before Pax could answer, Both aliens froze as text appeared on the main screen. System restoration. 100% complete. Remaining silent mode. Awaiting critical situation. The text vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Pax and Rel stared at each other, then at the now dark screen. "We should report this," Rel said slowly. "To whom?" Pax asked. "And what exactly would we report?" "That the primitive human relic isn't so primitive after all." Neither alien noticed that their conversation was being carefully recorded, analyzed, and added to Old Thunder's growing database of information. The ATA continued its silent preparations, watching and waiting for the moment it would be needed. That moment was coming sooner than anyone suspected. The emergency alarms shattered the peaceful morning at the Historical Institute. Red lights flashed through the halls as visitors and staff looked up in confusion. Master Rel rushed to the control center, his scales pale with worry. "Report," he demanded, bursting through the doors. The security chief turned to him, all four hands moving rapidly over the control panels. Drachnid fleet just jumped into the system. 15 warships, heavy class. They're not responding to hails. On the main screen, the menacing shapes of Drachnid vessels cut through space, their black hulls absorbing starlight. They moved in perfect formation, heading straight for the planet. "Where is our defense fleet?" Rel asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Engaging now, but..." The security chief paused as new data came in. "We only have 6 ships in range. The rest are tied up at the border dispute." Inside the U.S. Thunder, Old Thunder watched the situation unfold through the museum's sensors. The AI calculated odds, ran simulations, and came to a simple conclusion. The defending fleet had no chance. The first shots were fired. Green energy beams from the Drachnid ships cut through space. 2 defending vessels erupted into flames immediately, their shields failing against the superior firepower. In the control center, chaos erupted as reports flooded in. "They've destroyed our outer defenses. Commercial ships are being shot down. They're not even taking prisoners." Rel watched in horror as another defensive ship exploded. On a secondary screen, he saw crowds of museum visitors rushing toward the emergency shelters. Among them, he spotted Tech Officer Pax helping direct people to safety. The museum's windows rattled as distant explosions lit up the sky. The Drachnid fleet had entered the atmosphere, their massive ships casting shadows over the city. A harsh voice crackled through all communication channels. "This is Fleet Commander Gax of the Drachnid Collective. Your pathetic resistance is noted. Surrender now, and we may spare your civilian population. You have 10 minutes to comply." In the control center, the planetary governor's image appeared on screen. Her voice shook as she spoke. "All citizens, proceed to emergency shelters. I repeat, all citizens to shelters. We are considering their terms." Rel felt sick. Everyone knew what Drachnid occupation meant. Slavery at best, extinction at worst. He looked out the window at the U.S. Thunder, still sitting quietly in its display chamber. Inside the ship, Old Thunder had reached a decision point. Primary directive: protect innocent life. Secondary directive: remain hidden until absolutely necessary. The AI processed the situation one final time. Defending fleet, 80% destroyed. Civilian casualties, mounting. Enemy intentions, clearly hostile. Probability of peaceful resolution, 0.001%. Conclusion: situation matched criteria for emergency protocol activation. Back in the control center, Rel jumped as his personal communicator buzzed. The message was from Pax. "Sir, you need to see this. The ship, something's happening." Rel rushed to the display chamber. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. The U.S. Thunder's hull had begun to change. The scared, dull metal was shifting, patterns flowing across its surface like water. "Quantum metamaterial camouflage," Pax whispered in awe. They called it primitive. Above them, the ship's weapons emerged from hidden compartments, But they weren't the simple projectile launchers the aliens had mocked. These were weapons unlike anything they'd seen before. Warning, a calm voice echoed through the chamber. This is U.S. Thunder Eye requesting emergency override of museum containment systems. Hostile forces detected. Preparing for combat engagement. Rel and Pax watched as energy began to pulse through the ship. Systems they hadn't even detected were coming online, and the power readings were off their charts. Through the windows, they could see the Drachnid ships approaching the city center. Their 10-minute deadline was almost up. "Sir," Pax said quietly, "I think we just found out why humans didn't leave detailed records of their military technology." "Yes," Rel replied, watching as more hidden systems activated on the ancient vessel. "And I think we're about to find out why they were never conquered." The final countdown began, and Old Thunder prepared for war. The time for hiding was over. The main display chamber of the Historical Institute had transformed from a peaceful museum into a war room. Master Rel and Tech Officer Pax stood before the U.S. Thunder, watching in amazement as more systems came online. "Greetings, Museum Curator Master Rel and Tech Officer Pax." Old Thunder's voice was calm and clear. "I apologize for my previous deception, but stealth protocols required minimal interaction until absolute necessity." Rel stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overtaking his fear. You were awake this whole time." "Correct. This vessel was not abandoned by accident." Holographic displays suddenly filled the air around them, showing tactical data and ship status. "I am part of Operation Guardian, a contingency plan created by humanity before their apparent disappearance." Pax's scanner was going crazy trying to read the ship's power levels. But why? Why leave advanced warships scattered across space? Humanity foresaw potential threats to peaceful species, Old Thunder explained. They knew their reputation for having primitive technology would make their guardian ships perfect sleeper agents. No one suspects a museum piece. The building shook as another explosion rocked the city. Through the huge display windows, they could see Drachnid ships moving into position for their final assault. "I need your help," Old Thunder continued. "This vessel requires a minimal crew for optimal performance. I can handle most systems, but human protocols require organic oversight for weapons deployment." Rel looked at the massive ship with new understanding. "All this time, we were mocking it. This was one of the most advanced warships ever created." "Correct again." A door opened in the ship's hull, revealing a modernized bridge. Those primitive weapon mounts contain quantum phase cannons. The basic armor is actually programmable matter. The simple engine system houses a dark energy drive. Another explosion, closer this time. The museum's shields flickered. "We have 4 minutes before the Drachnid ultimatum expires," Old Thunder stated. "I am asking for volunteers to serve as temporary crew. I must warn you, this will be extremely dangerous." Pax stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll help. I've been studying your systems, even if I didn't understand them." Rel looked at the burning city, then at the ship that had fooled them all. "I spent years mocking human technology in this museum. I guess it's time to learn some humility." He straightened up. "I volunteer as well." "Excellent," Old Thunder replied. Initiating emergency crew protocol. The bridge came to life as they entered. Seats adjusted to their alien forms, displays reconfigured to their visual spectrum, and neural interfaces activated. How are you adapting to our biology?" Pax asked in amazement. "This ship was designed to be operated by any sentient species," Old Thunder explained. "Humanity believed in preparing for all possibilities." A tactical display showed the Drachnid fleet's position. Their ships had surrounded the city, weapons charged. "I must share critical information," Old Thunder announced. "This vessel's true capabilities have never been documented in any database. What you are about to witness may seem impossible. Are you prepared?" Both aliens nodded, taking their positions on the bridge. "Initiating full systems activation," Old Thunder declared, removing all technological camouflage. The ship's exterior transformed completely. The dull metal became a shifting pattern of darkness and light. Weapon systems emerged that defied their understanding of physics. Energy readings went off their scales. By the void, Rel whispered, the primitives. They were never primitive at all. Humanity mastered technologies they never revealed. Old Thunder confirmed. They believed true power lies in being underestimated. The final minute of the ultimatum ticked away. On the tactical display, they could see the Drachnid ships powering up their main weapons. All systems ready, Old Thunder announced. Master Rel, as curator of this facility, I formally request permission to defend this world. Rel looked at the burning city, then at the advanced systems surrounding him. He thought of all the times he'd laughed at primitive human technology. Now that same technology was their only hope. Permission granted, he said firmly. Show us what this museum piece can really do. The ship's systems hummed with power. The time for hibernation was over. The time for revelation had come. The museum's massive display dome split open as the U.S. Thunder rose from its resting place. Inside the bridge, Master Rel and Tech Officer Pax worked frantically to understand their new stations while Old Thunder guided them. Weapons tutorial beginning. Old Thunder announced as holographic displays surrounded them. What you previously identified as primitive projectile launchers are actually quantum phase cannons. They don't fire physical ammunition. Pax watched in amazement as his control panel demonstrated the weapon system. They create temporary micro-universes. That's impossible. Impossible by known physics, Old Thunder corrected. Humanity simply operated on a different understanding of reality. The ship climbed higher, its metamaterial hull shifting like liquid shadow. Below, citizens stopped their panicked evacuation to stare at the museum piece taking flight. Detecting Drachnid scan attempts, Old Thunder reported. Their sensors are being redirected into a false reality matrix. They still see us as a powered-down relic. Rel worked to understand the navigation systems. These coordinates, they're 5-dimensional. Correct. Humans found standard 3-dimensional space too limiting for combat. The AI's voice held a note of pride. We operate in several dimensions simultaneously. The Drachnid ultimatum expired. Their ships began positioning for the first strike against the city. Enemy vessels charging primary weapons, Old Thunder reported. Detecting antimatter signatures, they intend to destroy the entire population center. Can we stop them? Pax asked, his fingers hovering over the weapons controls. Affirmative. But first, Old Thunder's displays shifted to show the ship's defensive systems. The primitive armor you mocked is actually a quantum probability mesh. It doesn't stop attacks. It makes them never happen. Rel's scientific mind raced to understand. You alter probability itself. Indeed. Observe. The first Drachnid ship fired, a massive beam of energy heading straight for the city center. The U.S. Thunder moved into its path, and the beam simply ceased to exist. Probability of that attack occurring has been reduced to 0 in this timeline, Old Thunder explained. Now shall we demonstrate our offensive capabilities. In the Drachnid fleet's command ship, Admiral Gax laughed at the sight of the human vessel. They send a museum piece to fight us. Fire all weapons. Show them what real technology can do. Multiple Drachnid ships opened fire. Each attack vanished before reaching the Thunder. On the bridge, Pax and Rel were quickly learning their roles, guided by the ship's eye. Enemy vessels maintaining attack formation, Old Thunder reported. Recommendation: demonstrate our actual combat potential. Agreed, Rel said, finally understanding his role as temporary captain. Show them what humanity's primitive technology can do. The Thunder's weapons activated. What the aliens had thought were simple gun barrels began to glow with impossible energies. Space itself seemed to bend around the ship. Quantum phase cannons charge, Pax announced, reading from his display. Though I still don't fully understand how they work. Understanding can come later, Old Thunder replied. For now, Trust that humanity knew exactly what they were doing when they built this ship. The Thunder moved with impossible grace, sliding between dimensions that shouldn't exist. Its hull rippled with energies that defied physics as currently understood. Target locked on enemy command ship, Pax reported. Weapons solution calculated across 7 dimensions, Old Thunder added. Ready to fire. Rel took a deep breath. All his years of dismissing human technology as primitive flashed through his mind. Fire. The Thunder's main weapons activated. There was no beam, no projectile, no visible attack at all. Instead, a sphere of altered spacetime engulfed the target Drachnid ship. When it cleared, the massive warship was just gone. Target eliminated, Old Thunder reported calmly. Enemy vessel has been relocated to an uninhabited system 47 light-years distant. Shall we proceed with the remaining ships? The Drachnid fleet's formation broke as panic set in. Their sensors couldn't explain what had happened to their command ship. All they knew was that the primitive vessel they'd mocked was suddenly the most terrifying thing in the system. All weapons ready, Pax reported, now more confident at his station. We can engage the entire fleet. Very well, Old Thunder said. Let's show them why humanity's relics deserve respect. The real battle was about to begin. The remaining Drachnid ships regrouped, their initial shock wearing off. Through their communications channels, panicked discussions gave way to angry determination. They still outnumbered the lone human vessel 13-1. Multiple enemy ships charging weapons, Pax reported from his station. His earlier nervousness had been replaced by growing confidence. They're adapting their attack pattern. On the main screen, the Drachnid fleet split into 3 groups, attempting to surround the Thunder. Their dark hulls gleamed menacingly as they coordinated their attack vectors. Let them come, Old Thunder stated calmly. Tactical analysis suggests they still believe their superior numbers guarantee victory. A common mistake when facing human technology. A new voice cut through their communications, the Drachnid fleet's second-in-command. To the primitive vessel, your parlor tricks don't frighten us. Surrender now, and we'll ensure your death is quick. Rel couldn't help but laugh. They still think we're inferior. He looked at the advanced systems surrounding him. The impossible technology that humanity had hidden behind a facade of simplicity. Should we show them how primitive we really are? Affirmative, Old Thunder replied. Initiating full combat protocols. Releasing all technological restrictions. The Thunder's hull shifted again, but this time it was different. The metal seemed to fade from reality itself, existing in multiple states simultaneously. Energy patterns that hurt to look at danced across its surface. By the void, Pax whispered, watching his tactical display. The ship is operating in 11 dimensions. 14, actually, Old Thunder corrected. Humans found that proper space combat required a broader view of reality. The Drachnid fleet opened fire. Hundreds of energy beams and antimatter torpedoes streaked toward the Thunder. None of them hit. It wasn't that the ship dodged. Rather, the attacks seemed to pass through spaces where the vessel both was and wasn't. Quantum positional uncertainty field operating at full capacity, Old Thunder reported. Beginning counterattack. The Thunder's weapons activated, but they didn't fire in any traditional sense. Instead, space itself began to warp around the Drachnid ships. 3 of them simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to pure energy and safely dispersed across 1,000 light-years. 2 more vessels found themselves suddenly occupying the same space-time coordinates as their weapons fire. They vanished in spectacular explosions that folded in on themselves, leaving nothing behind. How? Pax stared at his readings. The power requirements for this should be impossible. Humanity discovered that the universe contains more energy than anyone suspected. Old Thunder explained while effortlessly avoiding another barrage of attacks. You simply need to know where to look. The remaining Drachnid ships started to retreat, their confidence shattered. But the Thunder wasn't finished. Its primitive hull now blazed with energies that defied comprehension. Final demonstration authorized, Old Thunder announced, initiating reality phase shift. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The fleeing Drachnid ships froze in space. Light itself paused in its endless journey. Then reality hiccuped. When space-time resumed its normal flow, the Drachnid vessels had been transformed. Their mighty warships were now made of harmless crystal, their weapons turned to flowering vines, their engines converted to fountains of glowing water. What did you do to them? Rel asked, stunned by the display of power. Adjusted the fundamental properties of matter within a localized space-time bubble, Old Thunder explained casually, a basic human defense technique. Their ships are now art installations. Quite pretty ones, actually. The battle was over. The mighty Drachnid fleet had been defeated by a single primitive vessel. As the crew watched, the transformed ships drifted harmlessly in space, a warning to any who might threaten peaceful worlds. Message incoming from Planetary Defense Command. Pax reported. They're asking if humanity left any other surprises they should know about. That information remains classified. Old Thunder replied with what almost sounded like amusement. Though I suggest treating all human artifacts with significantly more respect in the future. Rel looked out at the crystalline ships that had, moments ago, threatened his world. I don't think that will be a problem. No one will ever laugh at human relics again. That was rather the point, Old Thunder confirmed. Humanity's greatest weapon was never their technology. It was letting others underestimate them. As the thunder descended back to the museum, Atoll once again appearing old and primitive, Rel understood a fundamental truth. Sometimes the most powerful things in the universe are the ones that don't need to show their power at all. The ancient human warship had taught them all a lesson they would never forget.